Well, hey everybody, Mark Lowry here. I have come into the XM Sirius Studios and I've hijacked Bill Gaither's Behind the Wheel right here on Enlighten. Lord, I've been trying to enlighten him for years. Finally, we're getting it done.
There is a track list going around this week for a brand new Gaither record, and somewhere in the middle of it are two names that have no business being there. I don't mean that unkindly. I mean it literally. David Phelps, Mark Lowry. Phelps left the Gaither Vocal Band in 2017. Lowry left in 2014. Neither man is a member of that group today. Neither has been for years. And both of their names are printed on this brand new official release, in plain type, like it's nothing at all. Nobody made anything of it. No press release about a reunion. No teaser video. No slow music. No poster. The names are just sitting there. But the fact that they're on it isn't what put a lump in my throat.
David Phelps, and here we are at TBN Studios. We just finished a Gaither video.
What did that is sitting a few lines further down the same page, and I'll get to it, because it won't mean anything to you until you understand what this record actually is. It's called You Are Loved. It was announced on August 7th. In all these years, all the homecoming videos, all the reunions, all the singing around that piano, there has never been a homecoming recording devoted entirely to Bill and Gloria Gaither's own songwriting. Not one. Other people's hymns, yes. Convention songs, yes. Southern gospel standards by the armful. Never a whole record of just theirs. This is the first one. And when you stop and think about the size of what those two people wrote, that is a strange thing to still be true in 2026. Because he lives. He touched me. There's something about that name. The King is coming. Something beautiful. Let's just praise the Lord. Songs that went into the hymnals. Songs your church sang so many times the pianist stopped kneading the page. Songs that were sung over caskets, and over babies, and over people who had nothing left to hold on to. Most of them came out of a house in Alexandria, Indiana, written by a school teacher and his wife, who were not trying to build anything. They wrote because a song showed up and needed writing down. And nobody ever gathered it all in one place. Until now. Here's how they did it. In the fall of 2025, they went into TBN Studios in Hendersonville, Tennessee. More than 250 artists came. In one single day, they recorded over 70 performances. 70. In a day. That one session is being released as 4 separate albums. The first, I Go to the Rock, came out in March of this year, on the eve of Bill's 90th birthday. You Are Loved is the second. 2 more are coming in 2027. Bill said this about that day, and it's one of the very few things he has said about it publicly. To stand shoulder to shoulder in praise and song with over 250 artists was awe-inspiring. It was a special day for Gloria and me. The practical details, so nobody misses them. The first single is already out. I Just Feel Like Something Good is About to Happen, sung by Angela Prim and Amy Perry of Sela. The second single, These Are They, comes August 28th. The album and the DVD arrive September 25th, and the television version will air on TBN, RFD TV, and other networks after that. Now, David Phelps. He came into the Gaither Vocal Band in 1997, a tenor unlike anything that group had ever carried. Trained, enormous. Able to go somewhere at the end of a song that made a room full of people stand up before they had decided to stand up. If you were in an auditorium in those years, you don't need me to describe it. You remember where you were sitting. He stayed until 2005. Then he came back in 2009. Then he left again in 2017. 2 runs, 20 years, off and on, of one of the most recognizable voices in Christian music. And in between, and after, he built something of his own tours, his own records, his own audience, who came for him and not for the group. He didn't drift after 2017. He went and did the work, and he's still doing it. He is 56 years old now. That's the number that catches people. 56. The same men who watched him walk onto a homecoming stage as a young man are now watching him at an age where a career is a settled thing, instead of a rising one. And I want to say one thing about both of his departures, because the internet loves a story that isn't there. Neither exit came with a scandal attached. Nobody has ever described a falling out. He left in 2005, the world kept turning, and he came back 4 years later. He left again in 2017. Men leave groups, schedules change, families need a father home on a Tuesday. That's usually the whole story, and anybody telling you different is selling something. Mark Lowry is a different matter entirely. Because with Lowry, the dates are almost beside the point. For a great many of you, the homecoming videos are the reason you found any of this at all. Somebody handed you a tape. You put it on a Sunday afternoon after dinner. And what kept you sitting there wasn't only the singing. It was the feeling that you had been led into a room with people who genuinely liked each other. Mark Lowry was a large part of why it felt that way. He was the release valve. 3 songs about heaven and dying mothers, and then Lowry would open his mouth, and the whole room would come apart laughing, and then the next song would land twice as hard because of it. He also wrote the lyrics to Mary Did You Know, a song that outgrew Southern gospel completely and became one of the most recorded Christmas songs of the last 50 years. His time in the group ran from 1988 to 2001, and then again from 2009 to 2014. 13 years inside, 12 years since. He is 68 now, so there they are. One gone since 2017, one gone since 2014, and both of them on a brand new official Gaither release. Let me be careful here, because I don't want anybody walking away from this with the wrong idea. Neither man has rejoined the Gaither Vocal Band. Nobody has said that. Nothing in the announcement suggests it. What happened is simpler, and I think better. They came back into the room. They came back to sing. That is a return to a recording. It is not a return to a roster, but it is still a return. And once you see where each of them was placed on this record, you start to realize somebody thought very hard about it. Mark Lowry is on a song called Go Ask, alongside Wes Hampton and Reggie Smith. Wes Hampton is 47, and he has carried the tenor part in that vocal band for years now. So on that one track you have a current voice standing right beside a former one. Nobody stumbles into a pairing like that in a room of 250 people. Somebody built it on purpose. David Phelps is on a song called These Are They, alongside Shane McConnell, one of the newer voices in the Gaither world. And that is the song they chose as the second single. Think about that. Not a safe pick. Not a legacy cut buried at track 11 where only the faithful would find it. The single. The one they're leading with. If you want to know how the Gaither camp feels about David Phelps in 2026, there is your answer. You do not put a man on your single out of politeness. Now, before I go further, I know exactly what some of you are already typing. Once people hear that Phelps and Lowry are on this, the very next thing they want to know is who else was in that room. And the name that comes up more than any other is Guy Penrod, who is 63 now. So let me be straight with you. Guy Penrod's name has not appeared on any track that has been announced. But hear the rest before you decide what that means. We have not seen the full list. Over 70 performances were recorded that day, and what has been released so far is only a portion of them. There are 2 more albums still coming in 2027 out of that same session. 3 records worth of that afternoon are still sitting in a vault somewhere. Anything could be on them. I simply am not going to tell you a man is on a record when nobody has said he is. Which brings me back to the thing I mentioned at the start. The part that actually got me. It isn't that Phelps and Lowry are on this record. It's what they are singing on it. Look at the rest of the track list. Slowly, The King is Coming, sung by the Gaither Vocal Band. I Am Loved, with Bill Gaither and Sandi Patty. Stay on that one a second. Bill Gaither, at 90 years old, singing I Am Loved, with Sandi Patty beside him. It Is Finished, with Bill Gaither, Todd Suttles and Jason Crabb. Something Beautiful, sung by Janet Paschal. The Center of My Joy, by the Martins. And then those last 2, These Are They, with Shane McConnell and David Phelps. Go Ask, with Mark Lowry, Wes Hampton, and Reggie Smith. Every one of those songs came out of that house in Indiana. Every one was written by 2 people who are now 90 and 84 years old. Phelps and Lowry did not come back to sing somebody else's hymn. They came back to sing the Gaither's own songs. On the first record ever made that holds nothing but the Gaither's own songs. If you spent years of your life singing a man's material, night after night, bus after bus, auditorium after auditorium, And then you moved on with your life. And then years later that man calls one more session, and this one is only his and his wife's writing. I don't think you say no to that. I don't think it's a business decision at all. I think it's closer to being asked to come home for supper, and there's something else in it that I keep turning over. A songwriter usually doesn't get to hear this. You write a thing at a kitchen table decades ago, and it goes out into the world, and it comes back to you secondhand. Somebody tells you they sang it at their mother's funeral. Somebody sends a letter. You almost never get to stand in a room and hear the people who carried your songs the furthest sing them back to you at the same time. Bill and Gloria got that. At 90 and 84. In one afternoon. Nobody has said this out loud, so I'll label it plainly as my own reading. But the timeline suggests those invitations were considered carefully. That session was booked. It was planned. 250 artists do not wander into a studio in Hendersonville by accident. Somebody sat down and made a list. Somebody made the calls. And on that list were 2 names that had been off the roster for years. Now picture what that day looked like from the floor. Men who had sung together in 1997 and hadn't stood in the same room since. People who only see each other at funerals and award shows anymore. Voices from the very earliest Homecoming videos. Grayer now, slower on the stairs, still finding the harmony part on the second pass. Because the body remembers what the body did for 30 years. And Bill in the middle of all of it, 89 years old that day, about to turn 90, shoulder to shoulder. That was his phrase, and I don't think he chose it carelessly. Think about what that day cost, physically, for the people standing in that room. 250 artists. 70 performances. 1 day. That is a long day for anybody. It is a much longer day when you are in your 70s or your 80s, standing on risers under hot lights, waiting your turn, singing takes until they come out right. Nobody had to do that. Every person there chose it. And most of them, understand, are not on the album cover. 250 artists came, and the announced track list names a fraction of them. The rest stood on those risers all day, singing parts nobody will separate out, for songs somebody else will be credited on. That tells you what the room was. It wasn't a career move for most of the people in it. They came because Bill and Gloria asked, which leads to the harder question, the one sitting underneath all of this. Some people are reading this record as a goodbye, and I understand exactly why. Bill is 90, Gloria is 84. It is the first project ever devoted to their own writing. Former members are turning up on it. The feeling arrives on its own, whether you invite it or not. So let me be very careful. Nobody has framed this as a farewell. Not Bill, not Gloria, not anyone in the Gaither organization. Nothing in that announcement points in that direction. And there are 2 more albums scheduled for next year, which is not how endings tend to get scheduled. That is a feeling in the fan base. It is not a fact, and I am not going to hand it to you as one. Here is a different way to read the very same evidence. Look at what a couple chooses to do when they are 90 and 84, and have every right in the world to sit down and rest. They book a studio, they call 250 people, they record for a full day, and they don't reach for anybody else's material. After 60 years of putting other people's songs at the center of the room, they finally put their own there. That is not a person closing a book. That is a person deciding what the record is going to say. And think about what those 2 2027 albums really are. They aren't leftovers. They are the rest of one afternoon. Everything on all 4 of those records happened inside the same set of hours, in the same building, with the same people standing on the same risers. Most projects get stitched together over months, in pieces, in different cities, with singers who never once meet. This was a single day, and they are still handing it to us a piece at a time, more than a year later. And when they made that list of who to call, they didn't stop at the current lineup. They went back further. They called people who had already left, and those people came. Whatever else you take from all of this, take that. I'll leave you with Gloria, because she said it better than I ever could. Talking about her own songwriting, she said, "I still believe that when I write a song and shoot it into the air, I have no idea where it's going to land. After the debates are done and the news is turned off, art will still speak. Sit with that a moment." She wrote something beautiful, with no idea that Janet Paschal would sing it decades later in a room in Hendersonville, Tennessee. She wrote, "I Am Loved," with no idea that her husband would sing it at 90 years old, with Sandy Patty standing beside him. She wrote songs and shot them into the air, and they landed in churches you have sat in. They landed at gravesides. They landed in living rooms at 2 o'clock in the morning when somebody needed them to. And now they have landed on a record where two men who walked away years ago walked back in and sang them, shoulder to shoulder, one more time. After the debates are done and the news is turned off, art will still speak.